Let's see if this will go live. Hey! Look at that.
I can't see the chat here, so let me see about if I can fix that.
And you should be able to pick it up on the site, because we should be up now on YouTube.
Let's see. Well, on my personal account, I am subscribed, so let's see if anything shows up there. There we go. And I'm going to turn the feed off. And try chat. Hooray. Typo and everything. Okay. So now all we have to do is tell the world.
Yep. Go ahead and tell the world. I'll prepare some more stuff.
Okay.
Hello, world. We are live.
And we're live! Boom.
Do you include the
Yep. This is exciting television, isn't it, folks?
Yeah, sorry. This is what it looks like when people are preparing for a stream. Usually I have my stream starting screen here while I'm doing all the minutia.
Okay. Hey, Geek says, well done. All right. Okay. So we don't have, looks like we don't have anybody but us in the chat yet, so we can just sit here and talk about stuff till people show up. Or we can jump straight into one of the viewer questions.
Well, we also do have our list of various topics that we've never actually touched on before.
That's true. Let me pull that up and see what we got.
We can give a basic thoughts on them while we're going on here.
Short Story Geeks, that's entirely the wrong podcast, and that's been defunct.
That's the wrong one.
Yep. Let's see here. The traditional races are dead. No, we talked about that.
We talked about that one.
Yes, we did.
I still agree about it, though. I still think it's a thing.
You still think it's a thing? Well, I mean, it's gonna keep being a thing until the cows come home. All right, so let's see. We've got the campaign as a character. What does your encounter want? 5e is weird. The great acrobatics versus athletics debate. What to do about game prep. Let's see. Game system, right tool for the right job. Also power levels. I don't even remember what that was supposed to be.
I don't remember that one. Also, I only know D&D and several others. So
yeah, mid-level D&D, high-level D&D. Magic items, threat or menace. Your dream D&D, what would you change?
I don't know. I mean, to be totally honest with you, 5e is kind of my dream D&D in the first place. That's probably not what a lot of people would think, but in my case, I enjoy it as it is. And, you know, it's so easy to modify and to do anything you want with it.
Mm-hmm.
With enough effort. It's the D&D that I wanted. What can I say?
Okay. Well, speaking only for myself, my dream D&D, you know, I've said before, a lot of what I really want out of D&D would change it from being D&D. Like, my biggest problem with D&D is the exponential power curve, you know, the whole 0 to hero thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also sometimes referred to as linear fighters and quadratic wizards. You know, so like the most powerful fighter, a level 20th fighter, is still not as powerful as like a 10th level wizard and never will be. Right? I mean, they can do like one-on-one more damage, but wizards can do their damage to armies, whereas fighters can do their damage to one guy. Right?
That's also fair.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something that is something that is kind of changing. Like as we get more expansions to the game, they are kind of touching more and more on fighters are not powerful comparatively to everything else, but that's by adding magic basically to everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no class in 5e that doesn't have a magic variant, and some of them are completely magic. There are classes that don't have a martial variant, but there's no classes that don't have a magic variant. But um, so like what I would love to see in D&D is a the levels 1 through 10 stretched out to be 20 levels.
Okay.
So that you can stay in this sort of sweet spot of the D&D play, but still have progression of some variety. Like I wrote up Shade of the Candle to 20th level, and somewhere around level 15, she runs out of interesting stuff to get. After that, it's just more piled on top.
Okay.
Right. But until she hits that point, there's these big gaps where Shady is not quite what I want her to be. Right. Um, hello.
Hello,
Somebody
Spike
hopped in the
Lestia.
chat. Yeah.
Welcome to the stream. How you doing?
Um,
Long time no see.
yeah. So yeah, so my train of thought was real. Oh, just I would love to be able to create a more robust, well-rounded 10th level character instead of, having to get through these sort of junk lower levels that don't do much for her, And that's true of most of my character builds. I'm like, a lot of the best stuff is at the end where almost nobody ever plays anyway, right? So I want to be able to get to that stuff without it breaking the world and the game.
I completely understand where you're getting at with that, and it kind of feels like a lot of D&D is you're kind of waiting on things. You're waiting on your next ability. You're waiting on your next skill, but you're not going to get that next
Mhm.
skill. You're not going to get that thing that really defines the class until you're level 5, you're level 6, you're level 10.
Yeah.
I don't think Swiftstorm really uh, became Swiftstorm. Like, and she didn't really become what I wanted her to become until like level 8 or 10. And even then, I'm still kind of flexing around with it.
Mhm.
And I don't think she will ever become what I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because even
Yeah,
though I
but I
love
mean,
5e, it's like she is a martial character. It's difficult to really turn a martial character into something unique.
yeah, and since most games do end somewhere between 9 and 12, right? If you have a complex character idea, it's hard to build that in that framework. But it's also players like to progress, right? If you
Yes.
go more than like 4 sessions without leveling up, people start getting itchy about when are we going to level up? When are we
Yeah.
going to level up?
When are we gonna level up? When are we gonna level up? Can we level up
Yeah,
now in Burning Coast? Can we level up
yeah.
now?
So
It's been like 5 sessions.
yeah, so the net result of that is that sets a lifespan of like 40 sessions to your campaign, like total, and then that character is done,
You have to start a new one.
right? Yeah. And I don't want to start Shady again. I want to play Shady for a long time. I really like Shady,
Uh,
right? So looking at level 10-ish being the likely length of her lifespan, I'm both eager to get the next stuff to make her what I want her to be, and terrified of the fact that every level I get is one level closer to the end. Right. So that's why I say I would like to have it spread out a lot more granular.
I can
I talk
understand that.
about the hero system a lot, and the hero system, your characters start out with 100 points,
Okay.
and a point is a point in it, 1 point in a hero system is not very much, but like 5 points is the equivalent of maybe a stat boost,
Okay.
right? And you get 3 to 5 experience points per session. There's no upper limit, right? And you don't get this explosive hit points thing. You have a constitution stat, and that is your hit points, basically. Well, you have constitution, or it's called body. But I'm sort of translating it into D&D terms. You have a constitution stat that you can boost, but it doesn't become 200 hit points. It becomes another point of constitution, right? So even a hero system
Yeah,
character
one
is
more point
gentle.
of constitution, you get to live for one more hit point.
Yeah, exactly. And character damage rarely goes beyond like 10 points per hit. So, if you have a character with the equivalent of 20 constitution, they can take a couple of good hits and be okay, and you can mitigate damage with armor and all that jazz. So just my point is, you can have the hero system experience equivalent of a 20th level character, and what's happened is they've expanded this way, but not this way.
It's not this way.
Yeah. So you can build a character who's got a ton of interesting martial maneuvers, none of which do huge amounts of damage, but all do something different.
Right.
And a spellcaster who's got this book full of all kinds of interesting utility spells, even though they're not casting fireballs at level cities, etc. And I would like to see more of that in Hero, and 5e is actually better about it than a lot of other versions. But I would like more of that built in. That would be my dream, D&D. And I also have a bug here, so pardon me while I flail about.
It is summer. There's gonna be bugs. Yeah. It just happens.
Yep.
I mean, I can completely understand that, and I am still, in general, kind of a newbie when it comes to tabletop games. Even though I've only been playing for like 5 years ish, and I mean, that still calls me a newbie. But from my experience, I've only experienced the first 10 levels. Like, I've experienced up to where we got to in Storm King's Thunder. We got to the 10, 12 levels, and that's it. And then we keep, in all of our other sessions, we keep being in those first 10 levels. We keep being in those first 10 levels. Like, I think Lux is level 3 still.
Yeah, the Enigma sector started at 3, and I don't think
we haven't gotten the level yet. Revenge is level 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really done past 5 or 10, but you have like these mysterious 10 levels beyond level 10 that go up to level 20, and no one plays them. And also because once you get past level 10, your power level explodes. At least wizards, spellcasters.
Yeah, wizards and clerics. Yeah.
They explode. There's total upwards progression when it comes to them. While as with fighters, just like slowly. Wait. We'll get there. Wizards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, single target fighters are still terrifying. You can put a fighter against a dragon and bet on the fighter. It's still possible, but again, wizards do things like change reality. Wizards shunt you all to a whole different dimension, so whatever you were fighting doesn't matter now because you're in another dimension,
right?
And stuff like that. And I'm looking at that with Storm King's Thunder because I do want to go back to it.
To be fair,
but that means
Swiftstorm could survive the dragon. The wizard will not.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that I'm looking at Storm King's Thunder, and we're going to be starting the return to Storm King's Thunder at 12th level.
At 12th level,
right? And I've only ever run something that was 12th level once before, and it didn't get very far because I ran into this logical problem of, what do you challenge people who can just say, screw you, we're going to the plane of fire.
Screw your reality, I'm going to replace it with my own.
Yeah.
We're going to go to whatever dimension we feel like it.
Yep. Also, welcome to the chat, Ace.
Hey, Ace. How you doing? I understand because I love playing Swiftstorm. She's an incredibly enjoyable character to play, even though she kind of struggles to find her place in the party since we have like 3 tanks.
Well, Swifty's challenges have been a combination of build, dice, and there's a paladin in the party and
the cleric.
If you have a paladin in the party, any other martial character sort of struggles to find a place. So that can be a thing.
But yeah. I've always really, and now that I'm playing more and more of it, and I'm watching more tabletop, more D&D sessions. It's like no one plays above level 10. It's like, why do you even have these levels? Just slow down the progression or slow down the power build of it. Still have progression, still have a steady or an outwards progression, but slow down how quickly your wizards become gods, and how quickly your bards are becoming someone who is taking over entire cities, entire kingdoms, and
and what that runs into with Dungeons and Dragons specifically is tradition. D&D. One of the things that doomed 4E was that they tried to throw away a lot of the old, what they call the sacred cows of D&D.
That's not what killed 4E.
It's not, but it is a thing. It is a thing where they've been burned and they're not likely to return to that. At least not immediately. People have this expectation of what D&D is, what D&D looks like, and so the very earliest D&D games, like the ones that Gygax and Arneson were sort of running off the cuff because the rules didn't exist yet, they were never expected to go past 10th level. Like Wish. Somebody asked Gary Gygax in the middle of a game, what's a wish? What level is a wish spell? And this was, when they had like 7th, 8th level characters who could cast 4th, 5th level spells. And so Gygax wanted it to stay out of reach of player characters. So he said, "Oh, it's 9th. Because it's so huge."
Right.
Never expecting, well, at least not expecting in the moment. Now, this is the story I've heard. I don't actually know this, but never expecting in the moment.
There.
I was not. He didn't expect that anybody would ever actually be able to cast 9th level spells because that would be ridiculous.
Well, surprise! People cast 9th level spells.
It's like Bill Gates saying nobody would ever need more than 640K of memory, right? It's, of course that limit is going to be broken someday.
Got news for you, Billy Gates.
Yep.
You never played D&D, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn. Watched tons of streams and played that company's MMO.
Yeah. Okay. So there were a couple of D&D MMOs actually. There was Neverwinter, which was basically 4E, the MMO.
It's still there.
And then there was there's Dungeons & Dragons Online, which is set in Eberron and is kind of vaguely sort of built on 3E, but not really. And neither of those are exactly those cleave closer to an MMO than to the Dungeons and Dragons experience. And I played Neverwinter to the level cap, and Neverwinter at level 1 and Neverwinter at level 20 feel exactly the same. You're just pushing different buttons.
Right. I understand that.
And that's pretty typical of MMOs.
Ace is talking about World of Warcraft. I'm talking about that World of Warcraft. Hence that. Talking about World of Warcraft. Hence that company, because I don't want to name them. I understand that.
Okay.
I can get that. Okay.
Yeah.
But most MMOs that are out there right now, and I've noticed this earlier, as I was playing many of them, they're just based off of D&D. Like, they all have the same stats that you built off of D&D.
Yeah,
it is D&D with fancy animations and fancy fancy
Yeah, and
fights.
specifically, it's the feel of 1 through 10 D&D, repeated ad nauseum until forever. It's got its own, wrinkles with like how bosses work and how leveling works and in game works and all that jazz. MMOs evolved from CRPGs, and CRPGs were somebody's attempt to do D&D on a computer. So, it has all that same stuff in its DNA.
Yeah. Okay, so this was going to be a Q&A stream. We have some more. We have some people now, so we can cover some of the questions that came up on our on the Twitter thread.
Let me start with. Let me pull out the. We had a question from Radar Nocturne, and I believe Radar Nocturne. I think Radar Nocturne is in the UK, so might not be here for the stream. We can address his question, which was, where did it go? There we go. Do you have a favorite race and class, and what's your opinion of the Artificer and its subclasses? So that's actually 2 questions.
That's 2 questions. Let's start with the first one.
Yeah, start with, do you have a favorite race and class? Blitzy, do you have a favorite race and class?
That's a hard one, because I have played not a lot of D&D, so I can't really say that I have a lot of experience, but I have played several different races. I'm going to be honest and say it's the race that no other DM would let me play, except for you. Griffin.
Okay.
A Griffin. So, I mean, okay. So we're talking about, okay. We might have to narrow this down. So we're going to talk about official ones then, or official races.
Okay. Sure.
It's going to be a mix of either. Actually, no. It's going to be Kobold.
Kobold, really?
Kobold. I mean, I really enjoy Khajiit, and I enjoy.
You mean Tabaxi?
Yes. I mean, Tabaxi.
Khajiit is other IP.
Never. That's a different one.
Yes.
Tabaxi, and I do enjoy Aarakocra. But Kobold is just fun. Like you're viewing this little tiny lizard thing that no one expects to be able to, start throwing punches, or to suddenly you're on top of the large-sized creature. It doesn't know where you are. You're beating up on it.
Although for Rinjit, we did reskin Halfling, and
we did,
yes,
Kobold, yes. So it wasn't actually a Kobold. So I did not really like the officials. At the time, we did not have the Unearthed Arcana, which now includes a new Kobold.
That'll probably be in the Dragon's Book.
Yeah, that's in November, I think. So we reskinned Halfling for the most part, and we renamed some things, and I think we replaced one ability with something else, and it worked out really well. It just works.
Yeah, Halflings are the great plucky little adventurers. So.
But I just really enjoyed the aesthetic of the race, of being this little dragon thing. No one knows what to think about it. You're usually a monster. Why are you talking like you're a normal person? and I love the quirks, like his Rinjit's. Like Kobolds tend to be quirky. It's really easy to bring in quirks into a Kobold character because you're this little strange thing, that lizard thing.
Yeah.
And you're usually the things that people beat up. But Rinjit's quirk was that he's trying to be noble, like his monk master, who is a monk of the Drunken Dragon. And so he's going around spouting these random wisdoms that his master has said at some point or another that probably don't really have an entirely.
Yeah, Kobolds have that sort of. They're a little confused, but they got the spirit.
They're trying. They're trying.
Yeah.
I like the spirit of the Kobold, and I like just the spunkiness. So, in terms of official races, That would be my favorite.
Okay, how about the class?
Gosh. Eldritch Knight. For as much as I harp on it, for as much as I have issues with how it handles magic, because it handles magic very strangely, in that you're sacrificing several of the attacks. You're sacrificing several of the key things that a fighter gets for a spell that's by level 10, 15. You're going to get more damage out of doing 3 attacks. But I enjoy the flavor. I've always enjoyed the flavor of a magical fighter. Paladins, not so much. I like the idea of Paladin, but it's too religion-y for my tastes. It's fun. Like I like being able to both buff myself and buff other people, still while being able to deal out damage. I just love classes that are the gish like that. You know, like I play Final Fantasy, I am the red mage. Same thing. It is, you know, magic attacks and healing, but there's no healing in Eldritch Knight. But yeah, Eldritch Knight.
Okay.
How about yourself? That's why I keep trying to fix it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously Tabaxi is my favorite race. I think there's no secret about that. Back when 3E first came out, I was super excited when Tabaxi finally showed up in a third-party monster manual, because they hadn't been in any of the official stuff yet. And I was like, oh, the Tabaxi have finally arrived. You know?
They are here.
Yeah, and you know, I've just been like that ever since. You know, and it I mean, it goes all the way back to first edition when they showed up in, I think it was the Fiend Folio, and I was like, there are these weird sort of things in the Fiend Folio. They're like jungle gnolls. You know, they jump from tree to tree and attack people, and are they've evolved into the Tabaxi as we know them today. But even in the early edition, there was just something I liked about them. And then Monster Manual 2 had the Cat Lord as the sort of deity of cats, and somewhere along the way, you know, people were naturally like, well, you know, the Tabaxi have their own weird gods, but really it's the Cat Lord kind of thing. You know,
it's all the Cat Lord. Cat Lord's all the way down.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, you know, I was always fascinated by them, and to the point of, I've mentioned before, when I was in college and not playing D&D, we were playing Fantasy Hero. The first character I made, and I only got to play him a couple times, was effectively a Tabaxi swordsman. So I mean, he was kind of Dusk. Dusk has got a little is got a lot more Inigo Montoya in him than the original character did, but the sort of core was there. And I mean, in Star Wars, I played a Bothan Jedi, you know, and Bothans are not exactly Tabaxi, but they're close. Right?
They kind of.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, that's an easy one. And if for whatever reason I was not allowed to play a Tabaxi, my second choice is probably a Drow.
Okay. Which was
for the official races.
Which was
Obsidian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you came up with Obsidian.
Yep. And that is I like elves of the classic Tolkien races. Elves have always been my favorite of those. And Drow, again, Drow and Grey Elves back in the old days were the weirdos of elves,
right?
You know, and so I wanted to play one of them because I wanted to be the weirdo among the weirdos, right?
It's always fun to be the weirdos. I mean, that's why I play all the strange things.
Yep. So those are the two for races. And as for class, I always like I always lean towards martial characters. I mentioned sometime in my blog that my power fantasy is to have a body that's athletic and does what I tell it to and doesn't get winded instantly and stuff like that. I want to be able to run and jump and punch and do all those adventure movie things. And so usually it's some kind of a fighter or a rogue or a monk or any of those. And I landed on a Tabaxi rogue while I was watching Sir Fox playing Nikki. And, you know, I mentioned in my blog about Nikki's sort of Bugs Bunny antics, right? Of just, he's a giant pain in the ass. And he annoys the monsters to death. And I was like, that looks like a lot of fun, you know. And so that was a direction I wanted to go. And I already had the character of Shade of the Candle in my mind, and I'd been like trying to build her in Skyrim over and over again, because it was the only computer game that had something like a Tabaxi. And so when you started to run, I was like, I finally get to play a Tabaxi rogue. I've got Shade of the Candle. It's time to go. And so
time to do it.
That's where she came from. Yep.
So
that's it for that question, as far as I'm concerned. The second part, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Ace says Shade is the only character they know, so I'd probably go with Tabaxi themselves, with Wood Elves being a close second. Do they count? I think so. Wood Elves are, they're...
Wood Elves have been there forever. I mean, Wood Elves started with Legolas, so...
Yes, Legolas is basically a Wood Elf, so...
Yeah, although if you actually get into mapping Tolkien to D&D, Legolas is a high elf who lives among Wood Elves. He is not himself a Wood Elf. So go make of that.
You know more about that than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I've studied a lot of this stuff, but yeah, Wood Elves totally count, and like the Wood Elf Ranger is a classic archetype that I have played a Wood Elf Ranger and enjoyed. You know, and it can be fun, and of course Laurie's character in Storm King's Thunder is a Wood Elf Ranger, who's a lot like Legolas from the books. You know, in the books he's this sort of strong silent type who barely ever says anything. Just kills stuff, just shoots everything. Except when the Balrog shows up and Legolas freaks out. That's like his big character moment. You know, and so it's like when somebody runs across the room and punches Worf, so that you know that they're dangerous. When Legolas freaks out, you know
something's wrong.
Yeah,
you know something's wrong.
Yep. So the second part of Radar Nocturne's question is, what is your opinion of the Artificer and its subclasses? So why don't you take that one first?
I was gonna say, I'm the only one that's played the Artificer. It is extremely powerful. I like it a lot. Because I do like the whole arcane magic mixed with, you know, technology sort of feel to it. And it really facilitates the sort of the arcane fighter that I like as well. With the battle... Hold on. Before I say something and sound stupid...
We will return after these messages.
I was gonna say, before I say something and sound stupid, I don't remember with the Battlesmith. Battlesmith is the tanky warrior sort of.
The Tony Stark.
No, that's the
armor.
That's the armor. Yeah, Battlesmith is the one that has martial abilities. They have a arcane robotic pet that they have with them. They're the tanky sort of one. Probably what Swiftstorm would have been if I had Artificer before.
I don't know. I never pictured Swiftstorm like building her stuff.
Maybe a version of her. But it is extremely powerful. I currently have a artillerist Artificer, which is in Plotline's game. And she... Like, no one's going to die around her.
Yeah.
It's like she usually has her... Okay, so one thing we did find out recently, we had to slight alterations, is that for the gun for the artillerist, you only have one free use of it a day. It lasts for an hour, and if you want another one, you have to sacrifice a spell. but at the same time, that gun has an ability to it that provides a shield to everyone around you that provides temporary hit points, and you can do that as a bonus action on each turn.
Yeah.
No one's going to die
Yeah,
if she is near
it's like
you.
giving the party regeneration.
It's
almost.
basically giving them it's basically giving them regeneration every turn. And it's extremely powerful. I like it a lot. But that may be just a little bit too,
a little OP, yeah.
A little on the overpowered side.
Yeah. Well, power creep as an addition ages is definitely a thing that happens.
Power creep is happening, and it's definitely I definitely feel like going forward we're gonna see more similar I forgot the word. Similar subclasses, similar to the Artificer's power creep. We're going to see things that are taking, similar to the Artificer. You're going to see more creep of power in a similar fashion.
Yeah, the other classes, the base classes, are going to need to be buffed so that they can keep up. Yeah.
But yes, I like it. A little bit overpowered.
Yeah. Well, I like the Artificer conceptually. We've talked a little about sort of how I feel about magic items in D&D, and I'm like, the Artificer.
He hates
the Artificer solves that problem by making the bag full of magic items the character's feature.
Yeah, it's the kit.
Right. Yeah, that is the character's special ability. Is that they make and carry a ton of magic items and they hand them out to their friends like candy and all that jazz. I'm like, see, now that's cool.
Yes.
Because that's the character doing it.
Yes.
It's not just stuff that anybody can pick up.
It also gives them a limit. Like they're very limited in what they can do and how much they can hand out stuff to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And Artificer opens up story things that you could do. Like Egon is the Ghostbusters Artificer. Right?
Yes.
He gave the party weapons that do radiant damage so they could fight ghosts.
You know what? Yeah. I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's conceptually, I love the Artificer for that because they make magic items. All my problems with magic items go away if you have an Artificer there building them. Right.
They don't build permanent magic items. I mean, they probably can. You can probably do things like that.
Well,
establish things.
Yeah, you could make it a story thing. It doesn't.
Yeah.
If the DM wants to hand out magic items but doesn't want it to be, you found a +1 sword in this dungeon and you bought a wand of what's it from this magic shop, whatever. You can just say Egon built it and handed it to you.
Yes.
Right. And that way it ties in Egon's character, Egon the Artificer, and your character, the mechanical progression of your character in a way that advances the story.
I mean, at least it's not Arthur the Artificer.
Yeah. Mechanically, yes, I agree that that temporary hit point thing is kind of broken.
I mean, I love it. It's great. Yeah. It's like I'd love just being able to stand behind the tank. It's like, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Yeah. Have more temporary hit points to be an extra tanky tank.
Yeah, and I'm a little amazed that it got through playtesting, honestly.
I feel like I'm doing it wrong.
I don't know. I mean, we looked at it very carefully and we were like, it can't really be this powerful.
It really is that powerful. It
really is.
I still feel like I'm doing it wrong, but no, we've gone through it. Temporary hit points work that way. And I'm excited to try other subclasses for it. So I will probably play Artificer again. I really want to play Battlesmith. Like someone having this arcane magic technical construct with them that helps them fight.
Yeah, well, I mean it's Gauge. Is what that is.
I did like Gauge.
Yeah. It's like a lot of the later stuff coming out of WotC is sort of like, oh, that's how you build Iron Man. Oh, that's how you build Gauge. Oh, that's how you build, etc.
I mean, over time you're gonna see more of that, like more of, we've been influenced by this. Now let's make it a subclass.
Mm-hmm. And I mean that's how barbarians were invented. People
Yeah.
wanted to play Conan, so I mean it's not like wrong to do that. It's just kind of weird to watch it happening in real time. Uh,
That's
so,
true.
but yeah, so that's what I think of the Artificers is it's not for every world. Like Artificer was made for Eberron and is perfect for Eberron.
Yes.
But if you were doing a Conan game, a sword and sorcery game, Artificer would be terrible,
It wouldn't fit.
right? Yeah.
It wouldn't
So
fit at all.
it has to be something that you approach very carefully, which is why it kind of makes sense for it to be a supplemental class rather than a base class. There's stuff that's sort of in the base book that I think makes world assumptions that are not true for every world, but it's not a big enough problem where it like creates a whole other world the way Artificer does. So
Right. Well, I mean, that's why it came with Eberron. Like, the original Artificer was intended for Eberron because,
yes,
they have all the magic technical
yeah,
things. Like, they have the war, they have all of, they have Warforged. That's what it was
mm-hmm.
intended for, but now that's in Tasha's, it's like it's been recreated to basically work in more places than just Eberron.
Yeah,
Which is great. I mean, I agree. It doesn't work in every campaign, in every setting, but it's really fun. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I would like it
I think
more if I can actually kill things with it, but
yeah, well, I mean, that's a
that comes later.
we've got a paladin in the group.
She gets fireball later. Well, she already has fireballs. She has a necklace of fireballs that she's going to dismantle and figure out how to use.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. The other question we got from, or questions, because we got two, from Plotline. Race you would most want to play as that you haven't yet. And that's the key, is that you haven't yet.
That's hard. That's really hard because I've been able to play most of the races that I wanted to, and you've let me play the one race that, like, you've let me play Griffin, you've let me create the Avali with Lux, and it's like I'm already playing the classes that I would really want to play. I don't have one. Like I've got a Tabaxi, I got a Kobold, I've got. Take it back. I would actually like to play a centaur. Not either a centaur or a tar creature. Maybe not a centaur, but maybe like a taric creature or a satyr like creature.
Well, both of those are in Mythic
Both of those
Odyssey.
exist, but I would reflavor the centaur into like a cat tar or a
leopard tar.
A dog tar, or something along those lines. There's not so much taking up the entire room like Swiftstorm does.
And welcome, Chiffon Cake.
Welcome, Chiffon Cake. Hello. Centaur is amazing. I've looked it over in that book. I forgot the name of.
The Mythic Odysseys. Yeah.
Yes, the Mythic Odysseys. The Mythic Odysseys of Forgetfulness. Because everyone forgets that book exists. I like the book though, but yes, Centaur does exist, and it's a fun looking race. So I would like to reflavor that at some point and turn it into like a cat or a dog tar. What about you?
I think the one I would most like to play that I haven't yet, because I've played a lot of them over the years. I think I would like to play an Asmar.
Asmar?
Yeah. I created an Asmar monk who was basically Yang from Ruby.
Okay.
And I would like to play her sometime. She was the our group in Plotline's game needed a martial character, she was going to be my martial character.
We're full of martial characters, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were filled to the brim, so I made Aiko, and Aiko didn't work, and I was like, I don't want to play a wizard, so I brought in.
So you played a sorcerer.
Dusk. Well, no, I mean I replaced Aiko with Dusk, so
right.
I ended up with a martial character anyway, and I'm just gonna have to.
That'd be cool. Maybe probably pull that off if I ever do an Enigma Sector campaign, which
Yeah,
is probably likely going to happen.
Yeah, I thought of a way that that character could fit in Enigma Sector actually as a bounty hunter. That's how I pictured her. So
That is definitely something that could happen because I have been eyeing up Enigma Sector and waiting for more rests for you to build more things or for me to help you build more things in it. Maybe after maybe as a pause to Everkeep.
Let's see. And the second half of Plotz's question is class you would most want to play that you haven't played yet.
You go first on that one.
Okay, what class would I like to play that I haven't played yet? Well, again, I've played a lot of them. I think I would like to revisit Monk. I only got to play Key High for like 5-6 sessions. I don't remember how many.
It wasn't very long. That was in my early DM.
Yeah.
I wasn't very good.
I enjoyed it, but I won't. We won't have that argument again.
We're not going to have that argument again.
Yeah. So, but I had an NPC monk in my first 3.x game, the Thessalane game, actually, that a lot of our historical events reference. There was an NPC in the group who was basically Jackie Chan from Jackie Chan Adventures. He was a monk. And he was phobic of undead, and there was a lot of undead in the game. So every time the undead would show up, this NPC would run around going, "Bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day," because he was afraid of them, And so that gave the player characters a chance to be heroes. But if they were in over their heads, he could come in and save their butts. So He was a fun character.
Nice. That does sound fun. I mean, Jackie Chan is a character in of himself, so being able to play a Jackie Chan type character would be incredibly fun.
Yep. And Key High, he was a Tabaxi 4 elements monk, and Sir Fox very accurately described him as Aang with pointy ears, with fuzzy ears.
It's very accurate. And, I mean, that was what you're kind of going for, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty deliberate. So, like I said, I would like to revisit monk. Other than that, characters that I have never, like classes I've never played that I would like to play. All I can do is come up with subclass here because I'm not interested in wizards. I'm not interested in clerics. I'm barely interested in sorcerers, etc.
Yeah.
But what I would like to play is another type of rogue, which is the burglar.
Okay.
Burglar / assassin. More of the sort of classic edgelord thief.
Okay.
The concept I have is like a gentleman burglar / expert treasure acquirer. Someone who's very classy, very composed. Yep. And sort of has the high class demeanor of Obsidian, but is a thief.
Okay. Okay.
So
gentleman rogue.
Even though I'm currently playing 2 rogues in 2 different games, the class I would like to play that I haven't played is another type of rogue.
I mean, rogues are very flexible in terms of what you can really do with them.
They're extremely versatile.
Their flavor changes so much between the different subclasses. Like even my rogue, who's an arcane trickster, is just vastly different from the rogue you're currently playing. And vastly different from Nikki and any others. So a gentleman rogue is definitely an easy one to say, this is a character style that I've never played before, but I'm still a rogue, but I've never played it before.
Well, the thing about the rogue is in a certain way, they're like the everybody else of D&D. Like fighters are trained fighters. They are soldiers.
Yes.
They use heavy armor, etc. They imply a certain level of expertise at combat. Rogues
Not really.
Rogues might be good at stabbing people in the back, or they might be an expert duelist, or they might just get lucky, right? Um, that, but they have the ability to fight because D&D has a lot of fighting in it, and it's not fun to have characters who are gimped at that. But
Yes.
how they fight could be a ton of different ways, and they have skills that could go in different directions. You can have. Am I hanging up here?
No.
You could have the facey rogue,
Yes.
right? Or you could have the rogue who's absolutely terrible at social interactions, but is brilliant at
Getting into anywhere.
doing traps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So rogues are very versatile, very, very broad. There's lots of things you can do with rogues. So, how about you?
Okay. So I was thinking about it as you were talking, and I did already bring up the Battlesmith Artificer because I really like the idea of someone creating their own partner, creating their own best friend, I guess, or creating their own battle partner. And
this is my robot, and I love him, and he will kick your ass.
Basically, yes. But thinking about it more, the one class I have never played ever, and it's really weird for me because I love shapeshifters. Is Druid. I've never played Druid. I think I'm kind of put off by the kind of really general feel of Druid, where it's even though you don't have to be all nature lovey stuff. It's still the general feel of the entire class.
The flavor text.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a flavor. Yeah. It's you're still a warrior of nature. But I love the shape-shifting abilities of the druid, and I love the idea of melding that more into what the character is. Like the character is more of being able to take up a different shape based off of what they need, and what is happening around them, which a druid really exemplifies at. But I'm just not a huge fan of how deep into the nature lovey-dovey. I mean, I love nature. Let me just say, I love nature. I am a big fan of green everything, but it's there's something about the flavor of it that I just don't like. But I love the idea of a shape-shifting fighter, shape-shifting class that can really take advantage of that ability to throw people off or throw off, use it both in a social aspect, but also to throw off their enemies and things like that.
Okay, cool. So Ace, Chiffon, Spike, if you're still in the chat, do you have any questions for us? Because we had some preloaded questions. We've been at this for about an hour, but I'd like to keep going for a couple more minutes. So hit us with your questions if you don't have any.
Yes, please. If you have any questions, hit us up.
If you don't have any, hit us with your questions if we don't have any. That was a bizarre thing for me to say.
I mean, after talking for about an hour, things just kind of fall out of the mouth. I usually stream for 3 hours, and by the end of it, it's like blah, 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 blah. Words.
Yeah.
All right. We got from Ace. Yes.
Yeah, we have from Ace and Chiffon Cake both, and they're both kind of related.
They are.
So we've got So what is the best way to find a D&D group?
Okay.
And as a new player, and what are the best campaigns for beginners?
Let's take the first one. Let's take Aces first, because that's definitely that leads into the second one. Have someone that you can kind of bribe into being a DM.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple of different ways.
Sorry, that is my jokey idea.
Yeah. The most people get into a group either because they know somebody who's already in one and they've been invited, or They always wanted to play, and so they've got to be the DM because nobody else is doing it, and they invite people to come and play.
It's a very good
right?
way to become the forever DM.
Yeah, and it could set you up to be the forever DM, and that has its good points and its bad points. We're very lucky actually right now to have a group of like 7 players, 3 of whom take on regular DM duties, and that's like unheard of. It's taken me 30 years of being a player to get to this.
That is a unicorn to have
40
3
years,
DMs
yeah.
in
Yeah.
one set of people.
So we're very, very lucky. But there are ways. There's looking for type of groups on Reddit.
Yes.
And Discord and places where D&D players hang out. The worry with that is that finding the right group. Like if you hop into a game with a bunch of strangers, there is an even chance that you'll get a game that either doesn't work or a game that's very established and you feel like an outsider, or you run into, the kind of thing that gets talked about in D&D horror story videos and stuff like that. And that can be an issue. And if that happens to you, my advice is if you get into a game and you play a couple sessions and you're not enjoying it, or there's a weird vibe or something, say, thank you for your time. I'm going to try again, and go find another group.
Yes. So there's nothing that keeps you from continuing to play in a session, in a campaign that you're not comfortable with. And if you're not previously, like in, back, 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you managed to find a session, if you managed to find a game, people stuck with it because that was going to be the only game that you were going to be able to find in your area.
Yeah.
But now,
before the internet, it was college groups, and it was hanging out at the game store.
Yeah,
that was how you found groups.
That's not a thing anymore. If you are not comfortable with the game set that you find, like if you find it in in Reddit, a Roll20 also has a looking for group.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable with the
game,
Roll20
has built in.
Leave, and you can find a different. You can probably pretty. I wouldn't say easily, but with a little bit of time, you should be able to find another group that it's more easier for you to mesh up with.
And the single biggest D&D community online is at a website called ianworld.org. And that has been around forever. When he was alive, Gary Gygax used to be a member of that group. And they have a permanent looking for players sub chat, or not chat, it's message boards. It's all message boards because it dates back to the 90s. But
can you actually go back and look at looking for player stuff back in the 90s?
Well, no, they had a big old server crash.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
along the way. But and they do archive stuff, so they don't have like message boards dating back that old. Just the page.
That'd be cool though.
Is that old? It would be cool, and I would love to have the conversations I had with Gary Gygax saved somewhere, but I don't. Mostly we argued about books that he liked and I didn't, and vice versa. So that was a kind of a weird experience to be debating literature with Gary Gygax, but it was cool.
But yeah, like Reddit, Roll20, EN World. Just looking on Twitter, like there are hashtags on Twitter where you can, through D&D, looking for group.
Hashtag D&D, hashtag LFG, hashtag looking for
And it's going to be kind of hit and miss, but if you throw it out there, you're going to find someone. You're going to find a group. It's not easy, and you might have to jump from a couple of groups to find one that you really mesh with. But those
don't take it personal if like gaming with your friends doesn't work.
Yeah, like
because the interactions with a gaming group and the interactions with your pals can overlap, but they're not the same.
It's not necessarily going to be. It may not be great. Like you might be great friends with someone, but they may not have a um, great mesh of
Yeah. Everybody has different play styles, everybody has different interests, everybody has different assumptions about what a game should be like. Some people just want to kill everything, some people just want to talk to everything, some people want to seduce the dragon, some people don't want any sex in their game. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that different groups have, and you have to find a group that fits your style. It's like being on Second Life or anything like that, where you have the entire spectrum of humanity. You've got to find the part that clicks with you.
I was going to say something else and then I forgot it.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. But let's look at this other part of the question, because like I said, they're related. The other way of finding a D&D group is creating it. Say, I'm going to run a game. Who wants to be a player? And if you go on Twitter or your favorite Telegram or Discord groups and go looking for players, you'll suddenly have a bunch of people come out of the woodwork. I've always wanted to play D&D, but I've never been able to find a group. And so that puts you in the position of having a wide variety of choices of potential players. Like Plotline went to the Twitter ponies and said, "Who wants to play D&D?" And now he has a whole second group made up of
I think he has more people than he can. He had more people than he could take on.
He did. He had to turn away some people.
But at the same time, like you have to be willing to be the DM in that case. So
yeah, and being the DM is more challenging than just showing up at a game every week. There's a lot more to it. It does have its commensurate rewards, and it's got, it's a different experience than being a player.
Yes.
But if you're a DM or you're starting to be a DM, you need a beginning campaign. And what are you going to do with that? And I always give people the same recommendation, and that is the D&D 5e starter set.
Yes. I haven't played it.
With Lost Mine of Phandelver.
Never played it.
Yeah, I didn't run it for my current group because I had run it for some of the same players already.
Right.
So what I did is I took Keep on the Borderlands, which was the first edition version of the starter campaign.
I think it worked out
well. And I brought it forward.
I think that worked out well.
Yeah, well, I made a lot of changes to make it work for modern sensibilities. So,
yes,
I added things like names for NPCs and a storyline and things like that weren't in the original. But the D&D 5e starter set, it's a box set, and it's available online as a PDF and all that jazz. Comes with some pre-made characters, so that you have characters to hand out to players. And it comes with a beginning adventure, which is called The Lost Mine of Phandelver, which starts you at first level with a very simple job. You are caravan guards taking stuff to this little town on the Sword Coast of Faerun. And you come upon this ambush. And this ambush is the person you're supposed to take the stuff to has been kidnapped, and you have to go rescue them from goblins, and then it launches into this whole other adventure. And it's designed to take you from like first level to fifth level, and it walks the DM through it all, and it gives you 4 or 5 actually pre-made dungeons. They're smallish, but they're all designed to teach you elements of, like, here's what a good map looks like, and here's what a dynamic situation looks like, and here's what a full-blown dungeon looks like, and you get it a piece at a time. So the first part, the very first encounter is just an encounter with you versus the goblins, the players versus the goblins, and the goblins have one special ability, which it makes them act like rogues, which is after they attack, they can hide, and they're in bushes. So what they do is they pop out, they shoot, and they pop back into the bushes and hide.
It's really annoying.
It is, and for a group of first level players, 2 or 3 goblins doing that can wipe out the party. Because they can hit you, and you can't hit them back because you can't find them.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good way to still teach a party, teach people how different mechanics work. Like you're learning how the mechanic of hide and search works, or investigate.
And you're learning how a bonus action works.
Yes.
And you're learning, how light and surprise and all these other things work. So then, assuming everybody survives that encounter, or most people survive, or somebody has to roll up a new character or whatever, the next one is you go to the Goblin Cave, and the Goblin Cave has
more goblins.
More goblins, yes. But it has, sneaking up on the goblins. It has factions within the Goblin Cave, so you can start figuring out, oh, you know what? There's somebody in this chamber who wants to overthrow the goblin leader. So if we throw in our lot with him, we can all team up and gank the goblin leader, and then all we have to do is gank the rest of the goblins. Hooray, backstabbing for fun and profit. Yeah.
And thus begins the murder hobo spree.
Yeah. And, the Goblin Cave has like these different branching places it can go, and it has the first trap you'll ever encounter. It's a very clever trap. It's cleverly designed because it is a pain in the butt, but is not inherently deadly. So you don't step on the pressure plate and everybody dies. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it's an inconvenience trap. It's not a...
Wait, what? Does everyone die?
No. It's let me think of an analog. It would be like the equivalent of you sneaking in and the trap goes off and you get booted out of the dungeon.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad.
But the alarm goes off, so now the goblins know you're trying to sneak in. And so now you have to do either an assault or figure out some way to bypass the goblins who've been alerted, etc. It makes the situation more complex. And then, like I say, it's just every next step builds on the previous.
It builds up.
It's very well designed.
Nice. I can't say that the Wizards of the Coast's campaigns that come after that are as well designed. So for me, I'm gonna suggest some. There is a website called the DM's Guild, and on there you're going to find a lot of campaigns. There's going to be a lot of pre-made campaigns that other people have made. They're not there. You will find some that are Wizards of the Coast created, but most of them are created by other DMs who just say, I have this campaign, I have this thing that I want someone else to be able to play. Here, give me some money and you can play it. Or you can find ones that are for free. There's a lot of them on the DM's Guild that are free. They're questionable quality at sometimes, but most of those things...
it's fan-made content, so that your quality will vary.
But most of the things that I started out with as a starting DM came from the DM's Guild. I wanted to play the Lost Minds of Phandelver, but they already played it. So
Sorry.
there was at least 3 or 4 people who already knew what all the secrets were. So
Plotline has bought it and read it.
So I'm the only one who has not played it.
Yep.
So DM's Guild was a real lifesaver with that. I found several different things. Freebie, I think one was called the Burning Goblins.
The Burning Goblins, yeah.
The Burning Goblins.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the first one that I played. I think that
that was a pretty good starter.
It was a good one. I liked it. And it is also a starting campaign that I believe is created for first time DMs. I don't remember. It's been a while. But it gives you a city, and it gives you city. It's more like a village.
It was a village.
It was a village. It gives you a village.
A starter town.
It gives you all the instructions on how you can bring people together. It gives you starting encounters. It gives you questions. It gives you several. It gives you 2 dungeons. Only 2, because I only think it takes you to level 3. But I found that one was a really fun one to get me into DMing, and also at the end of it, spoilers, there's a dragon. Spoilers, but there's a dragon.
Yeah.
But it gives you like two ways to deal with the dragon. They took the third way that didn't exist. So I had to.
That's what players do.
Yes.
Players will always
Keep in mind that players will always find a way to screw over everything. Yeah. But yeah, DM's Guild. I found the city of Everkeep is based off of a setting book on the DM's Guild that I paid like $5 for. No Ace did not involve seducing the dragon. Not yet. No one has tried to seduce a dragon yet in our campaigns.
Shady hasn't met the right dragon.
Yeah, I guess not. We'll just give her a bronze dragon at some point. But yes, DM's Guild. There's plenty of things that are for free. My favorite one is actually, oh gosh, what was it called? It was something with a sheep.
Oh,
it was where a mage had turned themselves into a sheep. It was fun. And also you can also
you're welcome, Sean.
You're very welcome. There's plenty of them that are for free. And other ones are a few bucks. Like you can probably get most campaigns, newbie campaigns, for $2 to $3. And just look for campaigns that are for like level 1s through 5.
Mm-hmm. I have one more, actually, a WotC suggestion.
Yes.
Which there's a book called Tales from the Yawning Portal, and what that is adventures from previous editions that have been brought forward. And the first one in there is called The Sunken Citadel. And that was the intro adventure for 3rd edition. And that's a very good starter dungeon. And that will probably take you through 2 or 3 levels.
That also reminds me of what I was going to say earlier, of something where how to get a campaign. There is, if you live near a city, there is this, I would say, group-ish thing created by Wizards of the Coast, or affiliated with, basically. It's called the Adventurers League. Adventurers League, where you can go if you have like a game store near you. They may be part of the Adventurers League, so you can look up. I don't remember what it is, but there's an entire website for the Adventurers League where you can look up and see if there are game stores near you that run Adventurers League campaigns. And it will probably cost, I'm pretty sure it costs you money. You may have to pay.
You might have to pay like a membership fee, but
yeah.
It's not much.
I think you have to pay the game store. The game store may have a cost per playing a night.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've never played Adventurers League because I never lived in a place where there was an Adventurers League until recently, but now I don't feel like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Adventurers League is another, before the internet there was kind of.
And now it exists again, and it's much more widespread. So if you struggle to find people online, or if you don't really want to do online games, because online games comes with its own difficulties. We've covered it in another video somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere. But yeah, it's a good way to get in person D&D, especially with things starting to come back.
Yep. And circling back real quick to you mentioning the other WotC campaigns. Most of the big WotC campaigns, like the Storm King's Thunder and all of that stuff. Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd is very popular. It's basically a remake of an earlier edition one called Ravenloft, which was huge when it came out. It was a complete game changer for the whole entire industry, but that's another story. But most of the big campaign in books from WotC are built with the assumption that you can jump from Phandelver or Dragon of Ice Spire Peak into their story. They have very cursory low level stuff in them, mostly, because they're sort of, they kind of feel like the starter set is where you're going to start, or if you've already done the low level stuff, you're probably going to want to skip over it. Like our most recent campaigns, we've started beginning our campaigns at level 3, because level 1 and level 2, after you've gotten used to it, level 1 and level 2, you just feel constrained all the time. You're too you're too squishy. You can't do anything, etc.
There's an opinion among longtime gamers where just play at level 3. Start at level 3.
Yeah. Once you're used to it, I recommend doing at least a couple. Level 1 sucks.
I'm gonna pause you for a second there. Sorry, we had a bit of a connection blip. We should be back now.
Okay. Anyway, I think we've talked that question out.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys have any other questions or follow-ups you want from either of those?
Yeah, if you have any follow-ups, throw them at us. He says there's 2 stores near them that are part of the Adventurers League. Cool. Great.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that could get you started. And Adventurers League, like we said with the looking for group stuff, it's very hit or miss. So if one doesn't work, try the other.
Yes.
If they both don't work, or if you meet like one good player out of all the people there, latch onto them and see if you can use them as a connection to get another group, etc. I mean, it's just like any other human activity. You got to find the right people, and
you got to find the right connections,
make it happen, and all that jazz.
As annoying as it is, a lot of D&D is getting the right connections, either on Twitter or wherever you go. It's you build up over time, and you find more people to play with, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up.
And an important thing about that is that D&D groups don't usually stay together very long. About a year is probably what you can reasonably expect from a good group.
I kind of think that's changed a bit.
Well, it depends on your age. As you age, your group will tend to sort of solidify more. But if you're like in school, a lot of people game with the people they're in school with, and then school ends and everybody goes off and.
Yeah, but at the same time,
changed a little with the internet too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
playing online.
I don't know if that's such a thing as much anymore with the internet, because now if someone moves away, it's like, okay, we can now play off of Roll20.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what happened when COVID hit. We either could have stopped playing because you weren't able to meet with the your group over there, even though we were remote. Me, Plotline, and Surf Factor were remote, or we just all go remote. And so being able to go remote is just like, it prevents that everyone's moving everywhere else.
Yeah, but
so
people's lives change.
Yeah.
People change jobs. They
change interests. Maybe they're not interested in D&D.
Yeah, they've had their fun with D&D and they want to move on or whatever.
All right.
Have you ever LARPed? I have never LARPed. The closest we've come is fursuiting, and not done much of that for myself. Blitzy does that, but it's not the same at all. It's very not the same.
No, it's not. Definitely not. I have not LARPed. I would love to LARP. I would love to be a LARP monster.
A LARP monster.
I'd get up in fursuit and be a monster for a LARP. That sounds like it would be really fun.
Yeah. No, I've never LARPed. I had friends who were into it when I was in school, which was, just after. It wasn't quite the Stone Age. It was just after. But I had friends who were into LARP. They were into SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism, and all that stuff. And they enjoyed it, but it was never my scene. So
it is what it is. I don't know. I think I'd enjoy it, but no, not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour and a half. I could probably edit this into 3 different videos. We've talked about so much.
We talked a lot about. We talked about a lot of things before. People showed up, and then we had good conversations. You would pay. Chef Ron says would pay money to see y'all LARP in fursuits. Oh my gosh, I would do it. I would totally do it. I mean, it'd be
How much money are we talking? I have a PayPal account, you know.
I mean, it would probably last a half hour to an hour before I would melt. But you know, maybe longer. I have a good endurance unless it's 90 degrees out. I would, that would be fun. Get a bunch of fursuiters together and LARP.
I have to think that it must have been done, but I've never heard of it.
It must have been done. I expect that it's been done.
Yep. So, yeah. So thank you for coming, everybody.
Yes.
I've enjoyed
I like this.
having people to bounce off of, and it's
fun.
You know, most of our other videos have just been the two of us talking from notes, and so having a more organic conversation, I've enjoyed it a lot. So
yes, I like this. Thank you all for watching us today, and for coming into the chat and giving us your questions. If you have more questions, throw it at us.
You can tweet them or you can comment them down in the. We're gonna
this will be a post. This will yeah. You like this a lot. To quote Loki, another. Well, I mean, first that came from Thor.
Yeah,
Loki was quoting Thor.
Thor was quoting all of his forefathers, so
I enjoyed
service, Chiffon. Yeah, we want to be helpful. That's our big thing. Is we want to provide resources for people. So
yes, I mean, that could be an entire video on its own, providing resources for people, and I have opinions.
Well, I mean, we both have very strong opinions about lots of things, and sometimes they're aligned, and sometimes they're not, and we have to figure out how to make that work, But so we're gonna probably try and do this again next week. We will, depends on a lot of factors, but I would like to set this up as something that we do fairly regularly, and
well, we'll have to see. But yeah, we'll see what we'll do with this, and see what kind of questions we get, if we get more questions, or if we get, I don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know yet. This is the test, and then if people like it, we will do it more.
Cool. And I think that's probably we're done for tonight. So thank you for coming, everybody, and like and subscribe and all that junk.
But yes,
yep.
Thank you for watching. As I phase out, apparently.
Yeah, your focus has been coming and going all night.
I need a light. I need to get some lights in this place. That's because I
got a very cute little ring light that wasn't very expensive. You can grab one of those.
I'm gonna get like a light bar above my computer system, and that would be a nice light on me. Though if I did it like that, it'd make me look more exhausted, because just right now, I'm the way everything is set up. I look.
Yeah.
My camera is looking down at me, so I look exhausted because it's just getting the bags under my eyes.
Yeah, you can't see the bags because these hide them. But...
Where are my sunglasses? But yes, thank you. We will see you next time.
Night, everybody. Stay in focus, Blitzy.
No,
what are you doing?
This is my ADHD represented. It is a lack of focus. Good night.